Hello guys, welcome back to my video. And today we're going to be talking about Azure subscription. So if you remember in the last video, we discussed about Azure regions. And on this session, we're going to be talking about subscription. So this is still part of the Azure miniseries that we are doing regarding introduction to Azure. So this is I think this is video number 2, right? So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about Azure subscriptions on today's video. All right. So if we're talking about subscriptions, so we can think of it as a base container or a logical unit that comprise a group of related business or technical resources. And a subscription is required or mandatory when you are using an Azure resources. So what is an Azure resources? So basically these resources are like a manageable items. So for example, one example of resources is web applications, virtual network, Azure VNet or VM, storage account, um, Vault, and all of those things, right? So these are Azure resources, and a subscription is comprised of these technical resources. Okay. And when it comes to billing, when we're talking about billing, this group of resources are used and billed together, right? So, in other words, billing for Azure service is done on a per subscription basis. So if your account is the only account associated with a subscription, then you are responsible for billing. And each subscriptions can have, I think, different billing and payment term setup. So you can have a different subscription and different plans by, for example, department, projects, and by region or by office, right? And so on and so forth. And you can think of it that every cloud services belongs to a subscription. So that's how a cloud subscription works. So it doesn't matter when we're talking about Azure cloud or any other third-party cloud service provider. So it all goes into a subscription. So underneath, it's run by subscription, right? So you need to subscribe in order for you to get the service or the cloud service that you need. So same goes with every other third-party service provider. And in Azure, the subscription ID may be sometimes required for some operations, right? Okay. And on top of that, an Azure subscription also acts as an administrative boundary. So when I say administrative boundary, meaning that it allows a subscription administrator or someone who manages the subscription to access um, all the resources within the subscription and then delegate an access through a RBAC mechanism, right? So a subscription admin um, are able to access the resources within a subscription, and then that admin at the same time can delegate different access to different person that are working on the resource within that subscriptions, right? Okay. All right. So another thing that we need to understand is subscription links to an Azure account, as you see on the screen right now. So which in turns, well, what the reason it is linked because it's an identity of the Active Directory. So the subscription is an agreement between an organization and Microsoft to use the resources, right? So when you want to use a subscription, you need to authenticate first. So a subscription authenticates and authorizes a person to use the resources. That's why it's linked to an Azure account, right? And this Azure account is the one that are charged either by paid on per license basis or a cloud base or a resource consumption basis. So that's how it works. So probably later on this video, we're going to be talking a little bit about Azure account. All right, so let's talk about Azure AD Tenant and why is this, has some why Tenant has something to do with a subscription. So just a quick overview what a tenant means. A tenant refers to a single dedicated and trust instance of Azure Active Directory, and it's created automatically when you sign up for Microsoft Cloud Service subscription, right? So when you sign up for a subscription, then you will get automatically you'll have an Azure tenant, and this tenant is an instance of an Azure Active Directory. So the identity provider behind this is Azure Active Directory, right? So if you're going to look into this in a broader term, when your organization signs up for a cloud service subscription, a tenant therefore represent a single organization or identity or a person. So that's what a tenant means, right? And Azure AD Tenant provides a single place to manage your users, groups, permissions, applications, so on and so forth, right? And underneath this is Azure Active Directory, and the Azure Active Directory can be used to manage permissions for Office 365, Dynamics 365, and even for Azure, right? So when you're signing into Azure, the one that authenticates you is Azure Active Directory. So that's why you have Azure Active Directory, working behind the scene, right? So if you look into Azure Active Directory and how its relationship to a subscription, so it's a container that house a subscription. So for example, a single tenant can have or can be linked to one subscription, right? So or what you can do is a single tenant can have like a trust between two separate subscription. So these are possible ways of how the subscription and Azure AD tenant are related, right? Okay. All right. So so before we jump into the next, I just want to talk about Azure account a little bit. So an Azure account can have a as I mentioned, can have a multiple subscription, as you can see on the screen right now. Um, and this is what you use to log on to Azure portal, so you can get access to your Azure services, right? So an Azure account, in other words, is associated with one or more subscriptions, as you can see on the screen right now. So let me see if I can show you how it works. So I'm gonna open my subscription. So this is my Azure account, and this is my the credential that I use to sign in here is my Azure account, and my subscription is linked to this Azure account, right? And my identity provider or the identity that authenticates me is Azure Active Directory. So I have Azure Active Directory right here, right? And if I go to users, you'll see I have my Azure account right here. So this one, right? So this is, see, as you see there, the identity is Microsoft account. Um, the Azure account, the account that you can use to get a subscription, if you can use a Microsoft account like Hotmail or Outlook.com, or if you have like your organization Azure AD account, then you can use that to get a subscription, right? Okay, so when we look at subscription, as I said, a subscription is like a logical unit that houses all the resources. So the way it looks in real life is something like this. So you go to subscriptions, and then under subscriptions, it will list all your active subscriptions, right? So for me, this is my current subscription, the Visual Studio Enterprise subscription, right? If I click on this, then it will redirect me to this page right here. And from here alone, if I want to check what are the resource group or resources within the subscription, so I can do that by just going to settings, and then I can, for example, click resource group if I want to know how many resource group I have under this subscription. So I should see these are the resource group within these subscriptions. And if I want to know what are the resources that are being associated or linked to the subscription, I can go to resources, and it will list all the resources that are in my subscription. So if you have multiple resource group, then it will show you which resource group these resources are belongs to. So this is what I said when I say subscription is like a container base or a logical unit. So subscription comprise of these resources. So these are the resources that are within my subscription, right? All right, so let's talk about how to get an access or how to get a subscription. So there are several ways to get an Azure subscription. So w- some of the ways are listed here in the, or we're going to mention it in the video. So we have enterprise agreement, we have resellers, you have partners, and you have personal, right? So these are the ways that you can get an Azure subscription um, and start working, on those Azure services. So when we say enterprise agreement, so customer can add an Azure to their agreement by making upfront, like, commitment to Azure. So these are based on a contract with Microsoft, right? So you're signing an agreement, and then you're making an upfront commitment, in money wise, to Azure. So that commitment is consumed, like for example, throughout the year. So you have an agreement. Let's say I have a commitment to use leverage a service for 1 year, right? So those are what we call an enterprise agreement. Or maybe you have uh, you're you're an existing Microsoft customer, and you've been using, for example, Office 365, software as a service, and you're about to renew your enterprise agreement, and then the account team or sales team, discuss with you, or if you're interested with, on adding a subscription on your next agreement, then you can do that. Next is resellers. So resellers, you buy Azure through the open licensing program, which provides a simple yet flexible way to purchase cloud service from any Microsoft resellers. So you're buying this to a Microsoft authorized resellers, right? So that's how resellers work. And then we have partners. So we in Microsoft, we have a bunch of Microsoft dedicated partners, and if you want to buy a subscription, you need to find a Microsoft authorized and dedicated partners who can design and implement your Azure cloud solutions. And these partners have business and technology expertise or experience to recommend solution that meets a unique needs for your business. So when you are uh, looking into getting a subscription, you can also look into um, engaging a Microsoft partner. So on the good thing about that is that you can leverage them if you're not very familiar in terms of designing cloud solutions. So you leverage a partner to assist you, or who can help you with the implementation and design of Azure solutions in your organizations, right? And then lastly, we have the personal or free account. So this is what we call a free trial account. So you can get started using Azure right away. And I think the free account is valid for 30 days. So where you can sign up and it will ask you for your credit card information, but don't worry, you will not get billed um, immediately. So you will get billed after you reach the uh, trial account period, right? So those are the free account, right? And in terms of subscription usage, Azure offers free and paid subscriptions options, right? So um, you have the free, you have the pay as you go, you have enterprise agreement, and you have like student, right? So for free, you will have like a 200 credit for 30 days. So this is the free subscription comes with a free trial account. So you'll get like a 30 days trial account with 200 credit with that. So you can use that to, for example, test some Azure resources before you decide to, go either select pay as you go or enterprise, right? So when you say pay as you go subscription, so the subscription charges you on a monthly basis for the service that you use in that billing period. So this subscription is very appropriate to a wide range of users, from let's say from small users to a small business, right? So basically, pay as you go is it only charge you on what you use, right? It only billed you get like a billing every billing period. You'll only paid on the appropriate resources that you consume, right? So next is enterprise. So this is, as I mentioned, a one agreement with Microsoft, um, that you have a upfront commitment to use a service. For example, you have a contract for 1 year, right? So you use that. And we have a student. So Azure for Student subscription includes $100 in Azure credit, and it is to be used within the first 12 months. Plus, you can have a selected free services without any requiring credit card to sign up. So this is really good for students and schools that are working on Azure subscriptions, or working on Azure services. All right, folks. So I think that's all for the subscriptions. So on the next video, we're going to be talking about cost management. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something. Please comment down below if you wanna know anything or know something, and please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching, guys, and have a great day.